Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're just waiting a few seconds for everybody to join, and then we'll start. Are, are, are all the participants been admitted? Yes? Can we
Yes,
start?
of course.
Perfect. Thank you, George. Well, thank you, everyone, again, and welcome to the first webinar of a program that, as a sponsor, I'm particularly proud to introduce. I will start saying thank you, the warmest thank you to the PMI Greece chapter, because they started and hosted the first webinar of this program. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Giusy Meloni. If we can just move on. Giusy Meloni, I'm the current president of the PMI North and Italy chapter. And my chapter is the sponsor of this program. I will just introduce the program and recap what the program has been about. It has a long story because it started in 2020, a year that we all will remember because of the pandemic. Um, and at that time, it was just an idea. In this historical and geopolitical moment, the Mediterranean Sea somehow lost the meaning of culture and became more of a limit of a place of limits, frontiers. Um, and as an Italian, but as a citizen of the Mediterranean area, that something was deeply missing. So we started to consider the possibility of getting in touch with all the Med chapters, all the chapters touching the Mediterranean Sea, to kind of insert into the current area the warmth and the energy that we as professionals we put in all our projects and recapture our roots, our culture. So in 2021, we had the first contact with all the chapter facing the Mediterranean shores. It was, as you see, a long process. And then finally, in 2022, we nominated a program manager, which you will meet in a few minutes, and the final steering committee. And you can see what a wonderful work they have done, because you can see it in the time. From there on, the time just speeds up. In 2023, the steering committee was confirmed, the program charter was written, the program roadmap was defined, there was the approval of 2 projects, and finally, we were ready to go public with a series of webinars, of which this one is the first. We're looking forward to involve more chapters and to, as the steering committee likes to say, meet the world. So finally reach the outcome, but the deep emotional objective of this program, which is again recapture the sense of what the Mediterranean Sea has been for the culture that have grown around it. Let me introduce you the steering committee and the chapters that are part of it, because they are making the difference. They are the one that really took the program, and what you see is only a webinar, but only a webinar, takes a lot of work, and there is also much more that they're all doing. Maria Cristina Barbero is the program manager. Nikos from the our Austin chapter today, as well as panels. Then we have Imen from the Tunisia chapter, Riem from the Lebanon chapter, Luca from Northern Italy chapter, Aurora from Northern Italy, and Paolo from Southern Italy. That will continue to be the steering committee, but again, what we would really like is to open up to more chapters. They are particularly proud, and I have to say I am particularly proud of our logo. We think it's beautiful, don't you? It's just the colors of PMI, the shape of our heritage is all there. And that was another initiative, one of the first initiative that the steering committee put forward, because it was designed through it was chosen through a contest. Volunteers from the chapters, the steering committee chapters, were asked to make the proposal. You see them here. And finally, this is the one that was chosen. And a special thank you goes to the person who designed it for us, which is Valerio Pianella. And we really consider that he did a great job. There is not much more I really have to say. So if not, again, to the steering committee, again, to the chapters that are part of the steering committee, and to our hosts today. And I'll leave the speech to Maria Cristina. She's gonna tell you something more about the future. You are muted, Maria Cristina.
So good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining, of course. And just a reminder of our next events, and we will remind you also at the end of this presentation. And we wanted to have you also for the next one, so we will alert you in advance for the next one, that it will be the 28th of November. So I also want to thank you, Giusy, for the support of the Northern Italy chapter, and I ask Zanina, that I'm really honored to introduce today, that she is the president of the Austin chapter, the Greece chapter, and she will tell you something about them, about themselves, and about the work that they are doing at PMI. Okay, thank you, Zanina.
So, hello everybody. Welcome to this nice webinar and actually gathering. Honored to be invited. When we were thinking about it, as Juicy says, it was like 2 years ago. It was an idea that came a reality. It was like in somebody's mind. He shared the mind. He told us we are all family in the European region and more than ever in this region. So we felt honored, and it was like 2 or more than years ago that I was invited as the president of the Greece chapter. And thank you for the invitation. More than thrilled to join in this type of incentives. And to be honest, we would like to be more, but this is the start. Thank you to Maria Cristina. She is, what can I say? She is devoted to the particular task. And thank you to my colleagues, Nikos Valachos and Panos Lazaratos. Nikos and Panos are the members of the BOD of PMI Greece chapter. Here in Greece, we had been founded in 2006, and we are more than 830 members today, certified professionals, students from all sectors of economy, where we are gathering together for professional networking from educational level for all type of connections under the wings and the culture of the PMI. So we have been active in more than one of these chapter initiatives, either to be European or international. We can discuss about schools that we have initiatives since like 3 or 5 years now. We have volunteering groups, more than 30 or 35 volunteers that are running the volunteering teams. And we are proud to say that we have been also awarded in a lot of those initiatives from the PMI as well. Today we are celebrating through our presence here the fact that sometimes, apart from being professionally connected and apart from being more connected regarding our interest in the professional career and in the career in the project management sector, we should be connected in other ways as well. Culture is above all, and culture is in this region is most important when you work with people internationally, but also for the local projects. So in PMI Greece chapter, we are more than willing to enter to more negotiations and more discussions on how we will do better in the region and in the European region as well. We are proud to say that all years long, all these years that we have been discussing with you, we are growing in numbers. We are growing from sectors of all the economy in the Greek economy, and we are proud of it. Again, thank you for joining in this very interesting topic. Whoever likes sea and whoever likes sailing is more than keen in participating today. Most probably, somebody have even walked above this canal, but I am sure that Nikos and Panos will present today something that will excite us all. Thank you again for joining. Juicy, more than welcome to do whatever you are thinking about. You are excellent. And Maria Cristina, tell us how we can help more. Thank you for everything. Your lead, Nikos.
I'll take it from now. So thank you, Zanina, for the introduction. Thank you, Juicy. Thank you, Maria Cristina. And good evening to everybody. And actually, Zanina, I have actually bungee jumped from the Corinth Canal, so you can do that as well over there.
I was afraid to say so because this is not PMI certified activity.
Okay. I know. Anyway, good evening to all. My name is Panos Lazaratos, and today, together with Nico Valachos, we will talk to you about the Corinth Canal. We will tell you a story. We hope it will entertain you, but because we are also a PMI chapter, we'll try to put in a bit of PMI project management perspective into it. So, what is this canal? Where is it? And why is it significant? It is located at the Isthmus of Corinth, which is that narrow piece of land which connects the mainland Greece to the Peloponnese. If you are at least a bit familiar with the Greek map, the Peloponnese is that peninsula in the south that is shaped a bit like a hand with 4 fingers. The canal is 6.4 kilometers long. It is 21 about meters wide at the bottom and 24 about meters wide at the water surface, and on average 8 meters deep. But apart from this the data, the key question is who decided to make this engineering project, and most importantly, why? The first person to act on this vision was Periander, the tyrant of Corinth, in 602 BCE. He decided to connect the Gulf of Corinth with the Saronic Gulf, but it was an ambitious project which had inherent technical challenges. Still, he did not give up. He was convinced of the usefulness, so he did the next best thing he could. He implemented a backup solution, the Diolkos. The Diolkos was a 10-meter wide stone paved roadway, and it connected the western and eastern coasts of the isthmus. All along its length, there were 2 deep parallel grooves, about 1.5 meters from each other. So the process went as follows. A ship would sail to either end of the Diolkos, either coast, east or west, and then it would be unloaded to decrease the weight. After that, it would be mounted on a wooden vehicle with wheels. It would then be pulled all the way along the 6.5 kilometers from one coast to the other, while at the same time, the goods were transported with carts and animals. Apart from its demanding nature, the Olkos was also a particular project from many perspectives for its time. At that time, when most large-scale projects were done for political, military, or religious reasons, this was a commercial project. The construction had to be completed to derive any value from it. And lastly, there was no option for incremental development. You could not have a slipway that would went halfway through. And technologically, it was a huge leap. It was a transition from previous methods to a full-blown engineering project. We can therefore say that the Corinthians sponsored a highly important commercial project, whose success was proven because it operated successfully for more than 650 years. But the story only starts there. After the ancient Greeks, it was time for the Romans to take an interest in this endeavor. According to historians, Julius Caesar decided to initiate the canal project around 44 BCE, but he was assassinated later in the same year. Caligula thought about it next. He commissioned a study to Egyptian engineers in 40 CE, but they calculated a sea level difference, complicating the endeavor. He was not the first ruler consulting the Egyptians, as they had a great reputation because of the Egyptian antiquities. The fear was that the water flowing from west to east would cause floods in the eastern coast of the Saronic Gulf and the islands. A historical detail actually is that the engineers didn't get it completely wrong. The level difference was there, but it was not so significant. Modern calculations found a level difference of 20 centimeters, which results in a permanent current, one-way current through the canal. Anyway, Caligula didn't have the time to think about it anymore because soon after, year after that, he was also assassinated. And I'm beginning to see a pattern. The next Roman emperor who actually started excavations in 67 CE was Nero. But while the work had started, and he was interrupted by the Galba revolt in Rome, and he died in 68 CE. Finally, Herod Atticus followed in the 2nd century CE, and the Venetians 1687 CE. They considered the project, they did their studies, they said, no, it's too difficult, we're not going further. So the only one to really do any actual works after Periander was Nero. Now let's make a leap to the 19th century and particularly to 1830. Here, we invite you to visualize a relatively young state. After 400 years of Ottoman occupation, Greece really wants to develop quickly to earn a position among the European countries. So in that year, in 1830, Kapodistrias, the first governor of the modern Greek state and a charismatic personality on a European level, assigns a feasibility study to the French engineer Viollet-le-Duc, but the estimated budget of 40 million gold francs is too high for the Greek government. Anyway, Kapodistrias is also assassinated the next year, and the project is put on pause. 40 years later, the state still cannot finance this project. But the government led by Prime Minister Zaimis at the time had a different solution. What they did is they passed legislation permitting private interests to construct and exploit national property through public and private sector consortiums. This was creating a precedent for future big-scale projects. Subsequently, the budgetary obstacle was removed, and the execution commences on the 23rd of April, 1882. 11 years later, on July 24th, 1893, the inauguration, the grand opening of the canal takes place. So I told you a lot of dates, a lot of names. If we want to summarize in one slide, we can say that tonight we are talking about a project that started as an idea in 602 before BCE and was actually realized in 1893 of Common Era. So it's a project spanning 24, almost 25 centuries. So now we have seen the historical timeline of the project, and it's time to focus a bit more on the project details. So we gave you a brief idea, but why did Periander and all the other leaders want to undertake this challenging project? Why was the canal such an improvement over the alternative routes? Let's look at the isthmus in perspective. And Zanina already touched upon it, talking about sailing. You see, before the Diolkos and subsequently the canal, the vessels had to circumnavigate the Peloponnese Peninsula to pass from east to west, from the Aegean to the Ionian, and moving on to the other coast of the western coast of the Mediterranean. This sea passage happens to be called the Myrton Sea, and happens to be the roughest sea passage in Greece. It is the location of several ancient shipwrecks, and for the people interested in history and antiquities, these are two of the most famous artifacts that were found in such shipwrecks. To the left, you can see one of the world's first computers, the Antikythera mechanism, and to the right, the status of the Antikythera ephebe, the youth. So let's look at. So there was a lot of stake. Okay. Clearly, now that we've seen the reason for this project, there was a lot of stake. So when we're talking about stake, okay, we have to talk about stakeholders. So who are the stakeholders in this case? We'd say that first and foremost was the state, whether domestic, as in the case of ancient Greek leaders, or imperial, as in the case of the Roman Empire. The state had the most important role. They had the power of decision. They were doing the financing. Then one could say that the gods at that time were also stakeholders. Why we say that? Because in the case of Periander, as a good leader of his era, as anybody trying a significant endeavor at the time, consulted the oracle to see if the gods were looking at this project favorably. But the oracle prophesied against the project, claiming insult to Zeus, who decides where islands should be or where they should not be. So Periander was supposed to dig and make an island out of Peloponnese. Interestingly, this brings us to the next stakeholder group, the local interest. You may ask, yeah, well, but what's the connection? How do you go from the gods to the local interests? Well, according to historians, the prophecy was influenced actually by the local priesthood and the businessmen, who were afraid that Corinth would no longer be a trading stop. Everybody would just go through the canal. And as a result, they would lose income and the temples would lose offers. Now, what if we do the exercise for the modern times? Today, we would look into the stakeholders in a more structured way, using techniques such as a salience model. As per our own assessment, we consider that the state, the contractors, the financiers of the project and the shipping lines were definitive stakeholders because they had the high power over the project, they had the high legitimacy and the urgency for the canal. After them, we would assign the local and regional interests and the European traders as dependent stakeholders because they have the urgency to benefit from it, they have the legitimacy, but they have low power over the project. Lastly, we would consider the European governments as dormant stakeholders. They have the power, they have low legitimacy over a sovereign nation infrastructure, and they have low urgency at the time. But there we have an asterisk, because as we'll see later, the canal's role becomes quite important to the European governments in World War II. Now let's see what we can tell about the planning of the project. Not much is officially documented, but we've collected some interesting points to share with you. Again, starting all the way back from Nero's effort in 67 BCE, Nero had the ambitious planning of starting work simultaneously from both coasts. This approach is efficient, it's faster, but it has the risk of losing the alignment, which is something that has historically occurred in projects, infrastructure projects, in border drawing. Nero's engineers also had to deal with uncertainty about the substrate. They didn't know what was below the ground soil, the topsoil. So what they did is they dug 10-meter deep wells to collect more information along the route. 26 of these wells have actually been discovered by archaeologists. Subsequent efforts by Herod planned to build on the progress achieved by Nero, keeping the same route. Now, moving forward to the modern era and to 1882. This project was awarded to General Tour with a 99-year-old lease. A French company founded for the specific purpose in the same year took on the project management and the planning for and operations for over 5 years of planning. The intended width, according to the planning and the relevant law passed for this project, was supposed to be 42 meters, which, as we will see, would have rendered the canal relevant for a longer time period. Unfortunately, this was changed to the current 24.6 meters. I would like to point out at this point that Nero's route was so well chosen, so well planned, that actually the modern construction followed the exact same line. A key aspect of such a large project is, of course, money, the financing. As we saw, the Greek state could not fund the project, so the funding was raised by the French bank, Comptoir des Comptes de Paris, with a public offering in 1882. This effort was supported by other financial institutions, such as merchant bankers and other banks from Italy and the National Bank of Greece. However, the project was underestimated. Challenges that we will see going forward meant that the money was not enough and work stopped in 1890 due to lack of funds. The project was officially bankrupt then. A new consortium was formed to take over, but even then, in the remaining years, there were delayed payments and work stoppages due to funding. Financing was not the only challenge for this project. Today's technology for substrate analysis did not exist, so there was incomplete understanding of the technical parameters. Also, a project of this scale necessitated the most recent technological solutions. So the latest developments in explosives were supplied by the Nobel family, the famous Nobel family, from their factories in Italy and Germany. Another aspect that one might not initially think about is how do we communicate and coordinate a large number of workers and equipment across such a work site without today's communication technology. This is important because such a project was labor-intensive, even with the technology of that era. Local lack of sufficient labor is already indicated as a limiting factor, even as early as Periander's time. During Nero's effort, an estimated 10,000 workers, including 6,000 Judean slaves, were assigned to the project. Moving on to the modern era, technology improves the situation somehow. We don't need 10,000. But still, approximately 2,500 workers were employed from Montenegro, Italy, and Armenia. The majority of these 2,500 were actually the 1,400 Armenians who were brought because they were known for their hard work ethic and their stonemasonry skills, which is something that underlines the importance of skilled labor availability. Now, I hope I'm keeping your interest so far. Now, let's see some information about the process and the obstacles faced. Since we addressed the technology, let's talk a bit about the construction process. The construction relied heavily on the cut and dredge method. Workers employed a combination of explosives, steam-powered excavators, and manual labor to remove over 12 million cubic meters of earth. And then approximately 165,000 cubic meters of masonry were used to build retaining walls. But still, due to the nature of the soil over there, landslides were frequent, necessitating multiple closures of the worksite. A very important question about strategy is, was it the right time for this project? Was the ambition realistic at that time? For sure, the Greeks put pressure on themselves. The Suez Canal was completed on November 1869, 13 years before the excavations in Corinth started. So now the Greek state was pursuing its industrialization, economic growth, but perhaps most important of all, it was looking to solidify its identity as a modern developing nation. However, the country had to simultaneously handle the very ambitious projects going on, like the canal, like the national railway, like the draining of the Copais Lake, but they also had to handle the military expenditures and the payment of the war loans. This bad combination was a major factor leading to the country's bankruptcy in December 1893. Cost-wise, things also didn't work out as expected either. The combination of a seismic area, the sedimentary rock, the waves and currents caused by frequent landslides meant increased maintenance cost and loss of income. The canal needs constant monitoring and frequent works, with the two most important natural blockages happening in 1923 and then in 2021, recently. And in both cases, the canal had to be closed for about 2 years each time. It was also a strategic military asset for the Nazi forces during World War II. They wanted to avoid the alternative route due to the Royal Air Force bases in Malta and the Allied submarines patrolling the routes south of the Peloponnese. A different challenge was actually the alteration of biodiversity, something that was not expected, not even thought about previously, because the canal connected two previously distinct bodies of water with different marine ecosystems. The canal, unfortunately, became less relevant and less profitable as technology and market trends led to increase in vessel size, making it too small for the majority of merchant traffic. For reference, the maximum capacity is for a handy-size category vessels. And for those of you who are not familiar with maritime vessels categorization, you can see the diagram that handy size is actually the smallest classification for bulk carriers. As a result, 80% of the current traffic consists of yachts and small to medium cruise ships. The managing company has made studies for further development, but they mostly include commercial exploitation like marinas, malls, leisure activities, and museum, creating income from commercial uses. In fact, the method that has been used for repairs in the previous closures, namely using concrete buttressing, means that if ever there is a plan to expand and widen the canal, it's going to be even more difficult. And to go back to stakeholder management, this is something that goes against the wishes of the local economy, they want to see the canal being widened and once more relevant. Nevertheless, and after all these slides and all this information, and with its long history and all the challenges it faced, the canal is still a part of Greece's reality since its official opening in 1893, with honors and celebrations, with the presence of King George and the Prime Minister at the time, Thrasyboulos Zaibis. As any project of its scale, it has had an impact in the region. it is considered a contributing factor to the development of the central Greece. This new trade route means increased marine traffic in the area. Being close to Corinth, Piraeus gains a strategic role as one of the most important transshipment ports in the Mediterranean. And this chain reaction also affects the nearby capital of Athens, thus contributing to its economic and population development. But these two important hubs for Greece are not the only ones to benefit. The facilitation of transport around Greece, whether it is by short sea shipping through the canal from east to west, or by means of the improved road and train infrastructure that came along with the canal, brought the Peloponnese closer to the rest of the Greece socially and financially. On a national level, the construction of the canal represents a feat of engineering during its time and still remains one of the important landmarks connected with the rebirth of the country. So at this journey in time, it's the right moment to pass the presentation to Nikos, who will now lead us deeper into the lessons learned and conclusions from a project management perspective. Nikos, you take it from here.
Thanks, Pano. Thanks. After all these assassinations, the prophecies, the curses of the gods, so now let's focus on the lessons learned on this canal project. So these lessons are not only relevant to historical projects, but continue to apply in our modern project practices. The canal was full of challenges, from geological uncertainties to financial constraints and stakeholder opposition. However, it was also a rich learning ground for effective project management strategies. One of the takeaways from the Corinth Canal project is the importance of engaging and communicating with stakeholders. The project involved a diverse range of individuals and groups, and managing their expectations and concerns was vital for securing support and minimizing conflicts. In our modern project management, we must recognize that stakeholders are not only just obstacles to navigate, but valuable assets. Their insights can drive better decision-making, and that can lead to more sustainable outcomes. So projects that prioritize early the stakeholder engagement and tend to experience fewer surprises, less resistance, and have a greater alignment amongst teams. Another significant lesson is the critical importance of planning. The ambitious nature of the canal required careful consideration of various factors, including engineering challenges, environmental impact, and funding. When we look at the canal project, we can see clearly the illustration of why this is so important. The project faced many challenges that arose primarily from its scale and the unexpected geological conditions. These unforeseen issues had a big impact at the construction timeline and budget, making it clear that a detailed geological assessment is not just only a formality, but a basic element. In summary, thorough planning is not only a checkbox in our process. It is instrumental in identifying potential obstacles and is equipping us with the knowledge that we need to navigate our projects successfully. Risk management. The key takeaway here is the necessity of robust risk identification, assessment, and mitigation strategies. These components are essential as unexpected issues can have a huge impact on our budgets and timelines. The project faced serious delays and cost overruns, mostly due to unforeseen challenges that came along the way. The construction stopped not only by natural obstacles, but also by political events, highlighting how exposed these large-scale projects to external factors. In our projects, it is very important to adopt a formal risk management process that allows us not only to anticipate, but also to respond effectively to uncertainties. As we continue, we should focus also to another aspect, very important, which is the financial feasibility and sustainability. The initial estimates fell short because they didn't sufficiently account for various factors, including labor issues, unforeseen geological complications, and the necessity for advanced engineering solutions. Also, once the canal was completed, it became clear that the operational and maintenance costs were much higher than originally projected. So what does this mean for us today? The relevance for these lessons extends to our modern infrastructure project. It is vital that we include detailed financial analysis and revenue modeling from the beginning. Additionally, we must consider sustainability factors to ensure that our projects not only succeed in the short term, but also remain viable and beneficial in the long run. Adaptability and flexibility. One of the key lessons from the canal's construction is the necessity for the projects to be flexible enough to adapt changing circumstances, regulations, stakeholder needs that might change on the way. So rigid planning can often lead to failure, especially when faced with unforeseen events. So in our fast-paced world, it is essential that we adopt agile methodologies and approaches. This means allowing for adjustments in design, scope, or execution strategies based on evolving project conditions. Being agile enables us to respond effectively to new information, to shifting stakeholder priorities, or regulatory changes, ensuring that our projects remain on track and are aligned with their objectives. Legacy and long-term view. The Corinth Canal is not only an engineering solution, it stands as a testament to a long-term investment in infrastructure for the country that has impacted trade and economic development. Its construction not only transformed the local landscape, but also facilitated commerce and connectivity for generations. So for our contemporary projects, in our today's rapidly changing world, we must focus not only on immediate outcomes, but on creating durable projects that anticipate future needs and potential impacts. So as we come to the conclusion of our discussion today, I would like to highlight the central theme that arises throughout our exploration, which is the question of how do we effectively address uncertainty in project management. There are several strategies that can assist our ability to navigate uncertainty. Let's talk and see some of them. First of one is planning. By emphasizing on the importance of comprehensive feasibility analysis, it is important to have these that include a wide range of assessments, environmental, geological, hydrological evaluations, so we can identify any potential challenges early in the project life cycle, which allows us to proactively address them before they they escalate. So scenario planning, it's important that we develop some multiple scenarios that consider various potential outcomes. Anticipating different levels of uncertainty, we can equip ourselves with the tools to navigate the unexpected with confidence. Another one is the risk management. We need to focus on the risk identification to read the potential risks early on, which include not only the geological risks and the environmental impacts, but also the financial constraints and the potential regulatory changes. Next, risk assessment. This involves evaluating the risks that we have identified by using both qualitative and quantitative methods, so we can have a clear understanding of this risk and prioritize our responses effectively. So finally, develop some mitigation strategies. We must create some specific plans to address the risks. These can include alternative engineering designs, conducting additional environmental assessments, or other measures. Now, let's discuss about communication. Important, very important in our projects, to build trust and transparency. Open communication creates an environment of trust amongst all stakeholders. This is essential as this leads to more supportive relationship that can be very valuable during challenging times. And this also can facilitate collaboration. By engaging stakeholders early and consistently, we encourage team working and collaboration that allows teams to come together and address uncertainties proactively. The next one is the agile project management. We should embrace flexible project management approaches that enable us to remain adaptable in response to the changing circumstances. Additionally, we should implement some incremental design and development. By breaking the project into small pieces, we can create opportunities for testing and adjustments along the way. Now, let's turn our attention to contingencies. Another major element. We need to establish financial reserves. It's important to allocate contingency funds, especially to address unforeseen challenges that may arise during execution. Additionally, we can focus on developing backup plans. Creating backup plans for critical aspects of the project, such alternative routes, design, or construction techniques is essential. Then let's discuss about the lessons learned. It's very important to include and analyze previous projects to gather insights regarding the management of uncertainties. Incorporating these lessons into our current project planning, we can avoid repeating mistakes and enhance our strategies for dealing with unforeseen challenges. In addition to that, knowledge sharing by creating channels for teams to identify best practices and effective strategies for managing uncertainty. This collaborative environment not only fosters growth, but also empowers teams to attack challenges more effectively. I have included our LinkedIn QR codes in case for some of you want to connect with us. We'll be happy to take this discussion offline. If you have any questions or anything to add in this discussion, actually, this is the objective of this program, to unite us in a platform so we can have a collaborative environment. So this is the end of the presentation today. I would like to thank you all. I hope that you find our insights that we shared today valuable and applicable to your projects. I will pass the floor to Maria Cristina, just to remind you our next events. We will be happy to see you again. Yes, Maria?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Panos, and thank you, Nikos, because it was really interesting, because I feel that it's part of our history of people living in the Mediterranean area, in the Mediterranean region. So let me introduce the next event, because we wanted to meet you again, of course. And so we have planned three events. The next one is about wealth, healthy food. How can we deal with this important part of our life? And we wanted to discuss from the point of view of project management, of course. And the Northern Italy chapter will host this event. And then we meet again in January, and I don't know, Iman, if you are attending the meeting. I think so, because we were in touch before. And Tunisia will talk about education in this region, and from their point of view in Tunisia. And the last one, but it's not the last one, because this is the first plan. Then we hope to continue meeting you. Will be hosted by Lebanon chapter, and Riam, the president of the Lebanon chapter. I don't know if you are attending now, but Riam was part of our team of the steering committee, and we worked a lot together. And they are going to talk about resilience. And so we try to inform, Nikos, I think that we can use the emails of people attending this webinar to inform them about about next events. So we can try to keep together the team, if we can call it a team, but it's a group of people more than a team. And I think that we can thank you all, and thank you. Thank you,
Maria Cristina.
Thank you ourselves. Yes, something more to add about the PDUs? I don't know.
No, not really. I don't have something to say about that. What I'd like to say is, first of all, thanks to everybody. We managed to do it on time, which is something that was stressing me and Nikos. So that still give us about 5 minutes if there are any reflections, any questions.
Sure.
Again, Nikos and myself are not neither historians nor archaeologists. But if there's anything you want to discuss, any reflections, any thoughts, any questions, we can have a go at it. We have about 5 minutes for that. If not, we can say good night for tonight. So,
Pano,
yeah.
there's going to be a PDU unit that will be shared
Okay.
later on with all the people that are here. So just we will arrange that in due time.
Okay, so you answered a very important question.
Since we have a few minutes, I just want to add again, a special thank you to Panos and Nikos, because it was a wonderful presentation. To the Greece chapter for hosting the first webinar. It was a pilot, we were saying at the beginning, and it was, I would say, definitely a success. And most of all, because I agree with Maria Cristina, it shows we are on the right path. There is a history we share, there is a culture we share, there is a background. And looking at our past, our present, from the project management point of view means looking at our future together. And I think this is extremely important. And thank you so much for this presentation, and for the for the deep meaning that we all feel in it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
And if I'm allowed, I will say also good night. And I will share a comment in the chat. I do not know, Alessandro, if you finally agree with the project, but you can come and see it and join all the people who are right now sailing around the Peloponnese through the channel. So thank you for the canal. Thank you for everything. Maria
Thank
Cristina.
you, and see you again on the 28th of November. Thank you, Danina, for being with us because it was really important. And so we tell you also the story of the other chapters in this region. Thank you to everybody.
Yep.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.
Then